Hello everyone, namaste, salam, Buchanet. Good. Welcome to our Future Ed IELTS online foundation course. And today we are going to look at academic writing, task 1, and we're looking at the line graphs. We're going to look at some very specific language. The collocation for this is very tight, and by the end of this you should be able to write 2 very good basic sentence structures. So once again, what do we have to do for those of you who may be new and online tonight for the first time? We need to write a report, we need to analyze data and write a report. And we need to write at least 150 words in 20 minutes. So we'll just do a quick recap for anyone who's new online tonight. How is my task 1 report marked? Okay, the marks are very similar to that for our task 2. And so we get 4 marks altogether, and then the examiner adds our 4 marks up together, and then we divide it by 4 to get an average. So 25% of our mark is what is referred to as task response, or TR, I'll call it in future. And this simply means is how well have I responded to the task? Have I answered all parts of the question fully? The second mark we get is what we call CC. That stands for coherence and continuity. That's a long word, but it simply means, does it flow well? Is it well organized? And is it easy to understand? And then we get 25% of our mark for vocabulary. Am I using appropriate vocabulary at an appropriate level? And then another 25% for grammar. Am I using appropriate grammar structures, and are they accurate? So in our task 1 line graphs, what do we have to do to get a high mark? What do you think will be needed? First, we need to report the facts. So we don't need to give opinions as we do in task 2. So that makes it easier because all the information that I need is given to me in the graph. We need to be able to use a variety of grammar structures. And tonight in this lesson 1 and lesson 2, we're going to look at 2 very basic, very important sentence structures. And we're going to be developing them step by step so that by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to write accurate sentences. It's important to use topic-specific vocabulary. And for our line graphs, for our task 1, the collocation or the words that we choose to put together and the sentence structure very tight. So we need to follow very specific rules. And if we do this, it's actually a very simple task to score well in. And of course, finally, we need to be able to identify the correct tense to use, because the examiner can give us a line graph with a number of different tenses. And so we want to be able to use these verbs accurately. And tonight we're going to look at all of these features. So let's start. Okay. So once again, as I did with task 2, I've developed a simple 5-step strategy for our line graph. And we're going to ask ourselves these questions every single time we get a task. We're going to ask ourselves these same questions, because if I ask the right question, then I can actually answer the right question. And each one of these questions is targeted to make sure that I get the marks the examiner is actually looking for. So my question number 1 is, once again, what's the topic? And here the hint is, have a look at the title of the graph in the next slide. Question 1, what's the topic? So here we can see that my topic is car sales for the financial year 2019 to 2020. So we're going to be writing about car sales. And my vocabulary is going to be built around car sales. Question number 2. What's the tense? Now, most often in line graphs, your tense is found at the bottom of your graph. So if you have a look along the bottom line, we can see January, February, or what was July, August, September, and our dates at the top tell us 2019, 2020. So we have to write this graph in what tense? Would you choose past tense? Yes, this graph we would write in past tense. Let's look at question number 3. Question number 3, what are the units that I need to write about? And here we generally find these along the vertical axis. Where's my pen? We generally find the axis over here. Now these we need to be a little bit careful with, because can you see in very small print over here, it states in thousands. So I need to look for this. I need to make very sure that I'm using my units accurately, because if I talk about selling 140 cars, there's a very big difference to selling 140,000 cars. So make sure you check for your units carefully. Let's look at question number 4. So question number 4, I'm going to ask myself, what are the main points? I'm going to look for 2 things. I'm going to look for an overall trend, and then I'm going to look for 4 main details that I can write about. And we'll go into this in more detail a little further along. Question number 5. And finally, we're going to look for something that is a point of interest in the graph. It gives me an extra sentence that I can write about, because with my line graphs, I don't actually write a conclusion as such. And the way I like to wrap it up is I like to say, I like to have a little closing paragraph. It's interesting to note that. And in this particular graph, we could say, for example, notice that all the volatility occurs in the last 3 months of the year, that was the last 3 months of the year. And we'll be doing plenty of these examples as we go along. Good. So very quickly, just test yourself. Ask yourself, do you know the 5 questions that you should ask? You can use the graph to give you a hint. I'll give you a few minutes. And there they are. So check yourself. Okay. Question number 5. Question number 1, what's the topic? Question number 2, what's the tense? Question number 3, what are my units? Question number 4, what are my main points? an overall trend and a detail, 3 to 4 points in my detail, and is there anything interesting that I can write about? These questions down. I'll just give you a minute. You may like to take a screenshot or just jot them down, and do make notes as we go along, because I am going to refer back to them. Good. So now we need some verbs. We're going to have a look at the first sentence structure, but first of all, let's brush up on some verbs. And the first verbs we need are going to be to talk about upward movement. So I need to use verbs like increase, sales rise, car sales grow, or car sales go up, or rocket, or soar. So largely we'll start working with these 6 because this is, as I mentioned, the collocation is very tight. So if we start to try and use other words, well, it's just not what a native speaker would write. That stick to this very, very tight collocation. You don't need to move out of it. But sometimes the movement is down, and so I need the opposite of these verbs. And there they are. Sales decrease or drop or fall, or sales go down or plummet or plunge. I'll just give you a moment to just jot some of those down or take a screenshot.
Take a screenshot.
Okay.
We will see them again. Let's move on to, but is this upward or downward movement always the same? And the answer to that is no. Of course, there's a lot of variation in the graphs that we look at, and we need to be able to say how the figures increased or how they decreased. And I like to refer to this as sentence structure A. And once again, the collocation is very tight. We're simply going to use a verb, and then we're going to describe how they went up and down by using the adverb. How do we do this? How do I talk about a slow increase? So I'm going to use my subject, or my topic is going to be my car sales or perhaps rice production. And I'm going to use my verbs. And this time I've chosen the verb increase. But look what happens when I start talking about rice production. Rice production increases, but increase. So why do you think this is? Obviously, my car sales, I can count them, so it's countable. 1 sale, 2 sales, 3 sales, so they increase. Rice production, I can't count 1 rice production, 2 rice productions. So here we've got uncountable. And so I could rather say it, production increases, or it increases. So here I need to use my 3rd person singular. Now, the reason I've highlighted these in red is because over the years, this is where I've seen students make mistakes time and time and time again. These are the points of accuracy that you need to sharpen up on, especially if you want that 7. So now let's have a look at the adverb. And here I've selected quite a number of adverbs that we can use to talk about a very slow increase. And once again, have a look at how I've spelt them. Okay, my adverbs very often end in ly, and occasionally I need to add an extra L, like gradually, for example, or minimally. So we have these adverbs. Car sales increase marginally. Rice production increases slightly. Car sales increase minimally. Rice production increases gradually. So really, it's quite simple. All I have to do is learn the sentence structure, number A, and just practice writing these sentences again and again so that you can get them really fast and really accurate. Let's have a look at how to talk about a slow decrease. So I'm going to be looking for verbs that are the opposite of this. So how to talk about a slow decrease. And here I've simply just changed the verbs to those downward verbs. So car sales decrease marginally, rice production decreases marginally. And of course we can use the other downward verbs, and I'm going to give you a chance to do some of that now. So what I do is have a look at how to talk about mid-range increase. And here we're using our adverbs moderately and steadily. So car sales increase. I'm sorry, somebody's changed these slides and that needs to be on one line. Car sales increase moderately. Car sales increase steadily. Now have a look at this I here. Over the years, I've seen students not put in that I or write a Y. Remember our grammar rule for steadily, Y becomes I. So car sales increase steadily. And let's have a look at how we talk about mid-range decrease. Once again, we could say rice production decreases moderately. Or rice production goes down moderately. And in a moment, I'll give you a chance to practice writing some sentences using all these verbs. But first, let's have a look at a rapid increase and decrease. So how to talk about a rapid increase? Once again, I'm going to use my verb increase, and you're going to practice that with other verbs shortly. And have a look at these beautiful adverbs, these very descriptive adverbs to describe a very steep increase. So car sales increase rapidly, or substantially, or significantly, or sharply, or even dramatically. And we could use the same adverbs and just change our verb to talk about a rapid decrease. Rice production decreases rapidly, sharply, substantially, significantly, and steeply. And I'll just give you a moment to jot those down. All right, test yourself now. See if you can remember 6 verbs to talk about increase, and see if you can add some adverbs to those. I'll give you 2 minutes to complete the table. And let's check our answers. Did you have something like this? Did you get your third person singular correct? Car sales increase marginally. Remember, these are our countable. Anything countable. And then once again, anything uncountable, car sale, rice production goes up, or rice production rockets up. Now just have a look at these adverbs over here, okay? I can't really talk about something rocketing up because that's an extreme rise. And it would contradict it to say rocket up slowly or soars marginally. So what I need to do is to make sure that adverbs like rapidly or dramatically or sharply. So just stay with those if you're going to talk about these two extreme verbs, rockets and soars up or down. Stay with your adverbs dramatically or sharply. So here's a little table, and you can just practice and keep a record for yourself. And you can record all your verbs with both your upward movement and your downward movement. And then you can add an adverb, how, so that you have a list of your upward verbs and a list of your downward verbs in your book side by side. And once again, include both countable and uncountable, so you practice getting that third person singular correct. And you want your chart to look something like this. So this is my verb, this is my sentence structure number A, and we're looking at verb, upward or downward, and adverb to talk about how the change occurs. But is the tense always the same? And no, it isn't. This is another way in which the examiner loves to test me, because obviously with my verbs come my irregular verbs, and these are quite important. So let's have a look at a couple of different changes in the tense, and I've just done the 3 for today. And so, for example, we could receive a graph that is done in the present tense. And these figures could be a reflection, for example, every year, every January, every March, every July, every June, July. So we would say every year car sales increase in March, for example. Or as we've seen before, the graph that we're given is most often in the past, because obviously this is recorded data, and we would need to use our past simple tense of the verb. And we can even sometimes get a graph where we're required to use present perfect simple. And that would be talking about change up to now. So my figures would start in the past, and the graph would end with a present date. And then I would need to be able to swing between using my past simple tense and my present perfect simple tense. So let's have a look at an example of this. So if you'd like to take a screenshot of this, or I can give you a minute or two to note it down. There we have my irregular verbs. And we all know those, and it's a really good idea before you write your IELTS test to go and pull up a list of these and to relearn them again and make sure you're using them accurately, especially if you want that 7 for your speaking or your writing. So remember these ones. There's a regular one. Car sales increase. Last year, car sales increased. And up to now, car sales have increased. But have a look at the second one. And here we've got my irregular verb will both rise and grow. Rise, rose, and risen or have risen. Grow, grew, grown. And my other irregular one there, go up. So every year sales go up at Christmas time. Last year sales went up in December. Or this year sales have gone up. So once again, I encourage you to practice writing out your table, writing out your sentences, and writing out your verbs to make sure that you get them really quick and really accurate. We want to get to a point with our task 1 writing where we can write this perhaps even in 15 minutes. And that's going to give us more time, an extra 5 minutes for us to focus on our task 2. And why do I want to do this? Because my task 2 is worth 2/3 of my task is worth 1/3 of my marks. So it's easy to get my marks up quite high in my task 1 if I can produce these sentence structures with these verbs quickly and accurately. And so we're just having a look at changing the tense of my downward verbs. Decrease, drop, fall, goes down. I'll just give you a minute to just extend them into the past tense and into the present simple tense. So for example, we're going to have drop. Last year prices dropped, and up to now prices have increased or sales have increased. So very quickly, just fill in the others for the verbs fall, go down, plummets, and plunges. And test yourself. Does your table look like this one? So once again, there are my regular verbs: fall, fell, have fallen, and once again go down. Last year sales went down, or this year sales have gone down. And my plummeted, and there's one more off the page, which is actually plunge. It's Plunge, and it's a regular verb. Good. So when you wrote those verbs, did you remember? Aim for accuracy. Number 1, how to spell those words correctly. Dropped with a double P, dramatically with a double L, steadily with that I. Did you remember that 3rd person singular? Car sales, countable, go up, but rice production goes up. Car sales rise, but rice production rises. And did you remember those irregular verbs? These are all the areas that I've noticed that students can fall down in their accuracy, and it's something that's very easy to remedy. Just with a little practice and a little learning, we can get this all very accurate very quickly. Oh, that's not the right slide there. Okay. So that's all for now in this lesson. That's all for now in this lesson. And in the next lesson, in 20 minutes, we're going to look at when do these changes happen, how to talk about time, how much figures change. So from using those prepositions from to, and how to vary my subject clause. So we just don't write car sales, car sales, car sales. That's probably going to get me a level 4, maybe 5. And we're going to have a look at sentence structure B, which is my adjective plus verb. Oh, it's actually adjective. And we're going to put sentences together. So thanks for hopping online.